Hi, this is MXUX. I'm going to do a quick video here for Thanksgiving. Thanks for tuning in. Let me zoom that in a bit. I want to do a video about homelessness. I think we should all think about the homeless here around Thanksgiving. I just want to go through a couple of things. Let me just start this presentation off. I'm just going to talk about the rationale of what's going on with the homeless. Why do we have this explosion of homeless people? And how did this all happen? Because I can remember not too long ago, this wasn't a thing. Now it's a thing. It's everywhere. Anyway, let me get started with this, the reasons why it happened, and hopefully what we can do about it. Okay, let me start. Psycholinguistics is the study of how the psyche responds to words and languages, the way the language is understood, how you can change the way people feel about a thing by changing the words you use to define it. An example of this is, the estate tax was turned into the death tax. Estate tax, yeah, well, you accept that, you got to pay it. Death tax, death, oh, that's so negative. Not that this is a political channel, but you get my meaning. That is psycholinguistics. Redefining something by changing what you call it changes the wiring in your brain as to how you feel about it. I think the same thing has happened with poverty. We've turned poverty, the war on poverty, the Lyndon Baines Johnson war on poverty, the FDR's start of the welfare program for women and children, widows, and so forth. Let's just take Johnson's war on poverty. We don't have poverty anymore. Nobody really talks. We got homelessness. The psycholinguistics have changed. We don't call it poverty. It's homelessness. Actually, we call it homelessness, but it's really poverty. There's been a sleight of hand here. Let me just go on with this. A rose by any other name would smell sweet. That's the bard. Meaning, you call a rose whatever you want. It's still going to smell good. It's still going to be a rose. Same thing with poverty. You can call it homelessness. You can call it whatever you want. It's poverty, okay? We have a economic system, basically, that isn't producing any wealth for the majority of the people in the economy. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the homeless. So since when did poverty become homelessness? And this is the psycholinguistics of shame. Let me explain what I mean by that. Anyway, let's go through a brief history of this. In 1994, Bill Clinton signed a bill ending welfare as we know it. And this was pretty draconian, but basically it passed the responsibility for spending welfare funds to the states and away from the federal government, basically. And the states were free to develop their own welfare systems and requirements and allot the money as they felt was necessary. And a lot of the states were pretty draconian. They limited any kind of help to a year. Some no. They made really strict requirements for help. Some states funneled the money off into foster care programs or adoption programs or who knows what. But needless to say, it was not the same system. And what happened, it was a big success. Okay? And it was a smashing success by chance, by luck, basically, because the economy was so good immediately after this bill was passed. It was a false positive. The market crash of 2008, when the number of people falling into extreme poverty rose to historic levels, where it has basically stayed. And I'm going to define extreme poverty. But what has happened now we have historic numbers of people at extreme poverty, and we have a welfare system or a safety net that doesn't exist anymore. And let's move on here. Now, let's see if I can get this right to the right page. In 2008, the banks were bailed out for their financial recklessness in a grand manner, the biggest bailout in history. I think we've surpassed that now with the COVID. But in any case, in 2008, no one faced prosecution for destroying the economy with derivative, some would say, criminal financial instruments. Sorry, and these were just wild bets. The Big Short guy called it, but anyway, this was recklessness, and they stole the money, and we bailed them out, and the bankers made a lot of money off the same bailout. Now, during this same period, of course, things were bad in the economy. The people who would have been rescued by the pre-Clinton welfare system actually fell into extreme poverty, and welfare reform failed dramatically. So right when it was needed the most, by the people that were the most needy, the rug had been yanked out from under them. These state programs were ineffective, and these people were left out in the cold. Okay, and the poor you shall always have with you, or whatever the quote is. I don't know, but anyway, the point is, we have to have a safety net in this country. Now, I just want to go over this number. This extreme poverty is a concept. This is from the Washington Post, and this is a few years old, from 2018. But this guy was reporting on extreme poverty. Extreme poverty. Now, there's poverty, and there's extreme poverty. So we got 40 million Americans living in poverty, and 18.5 million Americans living in extreme poverty. And this is 2018. So let's just say 40 million total. Half of them, 20 million, are living in extreme poverty. Not even poverty, super secret, top secret probation poverty. 20 million, half of them. Okay? The government defines extreme poverty as having income lower than half of the official poverty rate. So these people are making 50% of the poverty rate. And I just want to give you an example of that. In 2021, extreme poverty, and this again is 20 million people in the country, would be income of $6,444 a year. That's not a month, that's an entire year. And that's $537 a month for one person. I don't even think you could live in a small town for that. I mean, food, clothing, medicine, forget rent. I don't know. What can you do with $537 a month? That's, $140 a week, maybe, something like that. I suppose you could live. I doubt if you could afford an apartment. You might be able to rent a room sometime, but certainly you're not going to have a cell phone. Maybe you can have a cell phone through a government. Anyway, that is extreme poverty. $537 a month. A lot of people spend that on Starbucks a month or Chipotle. If you get a family of four, it goes up, or a household of four, to $1,074 a month for four people. That is not a lot of money. And that is not a lot of money for paying rent. In most major metro areas now, for a family of four, to get anything with 2 bedrooms, let's say, it's going to be $2,000 a month. So how are you going to live on $1,074 a month? Okay, you're not going to have a car. Depends how good the transportation system is. Anyway, this is shocking. 20 million people in America are living on $537 a month. You would expect that for perhaps some third world country. It's America, okay? So what was the response of the state, local, and federal government with this outcome? With this historic level of extreme poverty? The response by the state, local, and federal government, they changed the definition. People in extreme poverty simply became homeless. Okay? Homeless sounds better, so much better than psycholinguistics, than extreme poverty. Okay? They were homeless. What does that even mean? Has anybody even defined that operationally? I mean, it's extreme poverty. It means when they say what causes homelessness, they say unaffordable housing. That means you're in poverty. You can't afford rent. Unemployment. That means you're not working. You don't have any money. These are the top two causes of homelessness. Why don't we just call it what it is? It's not homelessness. It's poverty, or in this case, extreme poverty. Okay? And a lot went along with this homelessness, and you can see it on TV, and you can see it on the local news. The homeless were further defined as unworthy victims, victims of a fate that did not deserve our sympathy. They were unworthy of our help, and this is the operational definition of the homeless. They are unworthy victims. Look at them. They're all out on the street. We don't care. No one cares. They're moving them from pillar to post. They're all out there. Of course they're unworthy victims. Is anybody doing it? Is anybody at the federal level doing anything? No. Is anybody at the state level doing anything? No. Is anything at the municipal level doing anything? No. Los Angeles, they got $12 billion grant to build homeless housing. They built 0 units. It was all grafted away. So, anyway, getting back to these unworthy victims. They were defined as drug addled, alcoholic, or mentally ill, or as outliers who wanted to be on the street. They want to sleep in the cold and the wet. Yeah, I want to be out here. I want to be out here when it's, 40 degrees and I don't have a bed to sleep on. I don't have anywhere dry to sleep, right? They want that. It was a conscious choice. Okay, many of them want it. You hear this all the time. And I'm going to explain why this happens, too, in a minute. The original federal welfare program was designed exactly to keep women with children off the street. And this is a sight all too often now. The stories of women living in their cars with their children, homeless women, homeless children, going to elementary school, not having anywhere to live, living in parked cars, living in homeless shelters. These are the people that the original welfare program was designed exactly to keep off the street. And now it's a common thing. Everybody's wringing their hands. Oh, what are we supposed to do about it? Oh, what are we supposed to... Well, there was a program in place to stop all this. You dismantled it. Let's just move on to the next page here. There's also a new trend of people over the age of, let's say, 55 to 60 who suddenly lose their jobs and are forced onto Social Security. So they're downsized, they're right-sized, whatever. You get the email, your effectiveness has dropped. I'm sorry, we're going to have to let you go. So, these people figure they're going to get another job. They're suddenly, they got a cardboard box. They're out the front door. They think, oh, I'm going to get another job. I got news for you. In America, we don't like to hire anybody over 40. As a matter of fact, the labor shortage that everybody's talking about now, it's a shortage of people from 21 to 25 because that's all anybody wants to hire. They don't want to hire anybody older than that. If they would hire older, there's hundreds of people that could work. They don't want them. They don't want the medical, whatever the case may be. So anyway, these people end up out on the street suddenly. So they get their Social Security early or whatever. They get $1,200 a month or $1,500 a month or whatever. Guess what? They're on the street. They got to get a new place. They don't have any savings. They're living paycheck to paycheck. New apartments, $2,000 a month. You got to come up with first, last, security deposit. You got to come up with $6,000 cash. They're getting, $1,200 a month, and they got to live on that too. They got to pay for their medical, if they got a cell phone, their food, their lodging, if they can get it, their clothing. And you got the ultra poor here who are making $567 a month. in this same boat that aren't getting Social Security. So you can see how, and the safety net was also designed to help these elderly people. It's dismantled. And I just want to say something about everybody says, well, you know, they're all drug addicts and they're all, look, any percentage of any population is going to have alcohol and drug problems, and the same with mental illness, so forth. But I want to tell you, I know from personal experience, many people who end up homeless are quickly ground down and broken by the lack of dignity, lack of personal safety, lack of personal hygiene, lack of a warm, dry place to sleep, lack of food, lack of sympathy, lack of money. These are normal people that, you know, got a couple bad turns in life. They need some help. For really, if we could help these people just in the interim, just for a short period of time, and get them straightened out, and if they need long-term help, we should give that to them. Anyway, the point is, yeah, they get ground down by life. They get broken. And they start drinking, and they start doing drugs. And guess what? And they start losing it. And that's the mental illness we see on the street. They weren't always this way. They started out, they had clean clothes, they had new luggage, they were optimistic. And then they got hit by the streets. I've seen this. It's a tragedy. We need to hand the reins of public assistance back to the federal government. The states have been proven incompetent by the fruits of their labor. The present homeless populations across the country, this is everywhere. And this was not the case, you know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. This did not exist. The countless favelas, you know what the favela is? That's the slums that surround the Brazilian cities, okay? Everywhere. Surrounding this, that's what we have now. Favelas everywhere. This is the result of the states taking over the reins of these programs. Favelas, full with the super duper poor, the extreme poor, okay? Just like Brazil. And these favelas are where there used to be parks and beaches, okay? And they've been deemed unworthy victims. They're unworthy of our sympathy, okay? Because, you know, their life hasn't turned out the way that the decision makers' lives has turned out. Anyway, this is driving up our insurance costs, driving quality of life, business, public health. There's so many reasons to do this the right way. Okay, so we've got to take this back from the states. They can't handle it. They're a total abject failure. The state's reallocation of money to other uses have produced a striking human sacrifice to the God of ending welfare as we know it, which is exactly what it is. We're practicing human sacrifice, and that's you know, that's never good. It's never a good thing. The God of ending welfare as we know it, that's a small g. We're sacrificing 174,000 people a year who are dying on the sidewalks, out on the street. And this is an old figure, it could be higher. 174,000 people are dying because of the incompetence of the states and their administration of these welfare funds and programs. That's what we've got from this reform. Favelas and 174,000 people dying on the streets. Okay, it's got to be a federal program. It's got to be monitored. It's got to be enforced and prosecuted. There have to be prosecutions from the Department of Justice. We need it. We also need public housing. And let's just go down here. The poverty programs, and I'm not going to call them homeless programs because they're not homeless programs. I don't think I'm ever going to use the word homeless again. This is poverty. We have poverty out in the open, in the United States. The war on poverty was many years ago. We thought we won it. We didn't win it. It's back. Poverty is winning. Not the homeless programs. The poverty programs need to be returned to the federal government for administration. And, again, We need to reinstate federal public housing projects. Los Angeles was given, I think, $12 billion to build public housing units to remediate homelessness. Not a single housing unit was built. It was all siphoned off to other programs and graft and nepotism. This has got to be a federal program. The states have proven they can't handle the proper administration of these programs and the funding that follows them. It's been a boondoggle. So, happy Thanksgiving. When you're sitting there eating your Thanksgiving dinner, think about this, okay? And here's what I want you to do after you eat Thanksgiving dinner. Call or write the White House and tell President Biden, whoever it is at the time, to take these programs back from the states and get our fellow citizens off the streets. Okay? This problem is bigger. God bless the churches for helping. God bless the local programs and the individuals helping. But this problem is a federal problem. We have to have a unified federal program on this so that these people aren't just shuttled from state to state seeking out the best benefits they can get. We have to have a federal, standardized federal program to help this, to fight this poverty and to produce housing at a low cost. God knows we need it. So here's what you do. You can do something. It's not even hard. Just call the White House. Here's the phone numbers, 202-456-1111. Okay, or you can call the switchboard, 202-456-1414. Let's just stick with this one. Get your cell phone, 202-456-1111. Call it right now and say, hey, we don't have a homeless problem. We have a poverty program. I want you to take back all the welfare programs from the states. I want them to be federalized, and I want a federal housing, low-income housing. And that's what I want from our government, and I'm a voter, and I hope you listen to me. And guys, the more of us that would call, the better. We're writing letters. I don't know. I wish I could get an audience with the president to talk to him about this. Anyway, I hope you have a Thanksgiving that's fun and with family, and be safe. And after you eat dinner and you're sitting around, say, oh, what's that phone number? I think I'm going to call. Call. Leave a 30-second message. They listen to the calls. All right, thank you very much for listening to this. This is MXUX. I'll be back with my regular videos here shortly. Thanks a lot for watching.